I've smoked weed twice.
Okay.
2 or 3 times, I think, in my entire life, because I was curious as like 16 years old.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Never anything else. But I feel like alcohol is way more harmful.
I was going to bring that up. So I have a really good friend of mine who is probably the most like anti-drug person I've ever met, and like can like run circles around people, is so intelligent, but she also gets drunker than anybody else in my life. And so that's something I brought up, and I don't really drink a lot, and honestly I drank more before I turned 21, and I've probably, you know, could count on one hand the amount of drinks I've had since October when I turned 21, and I think I'm moving more and more towards probably stopping drinking. And I did like dry January and I loved it. I think I've had 1 drink since then. And it's honestly, I don't know if you've noticed with our generation, like being sober is getting it's getting
cool
very,
again.
very popular. It's
Yes,
cool, which
it
is
is.
really exciting to me. But I'll bring up drinking a lot, and I'll, you know, look at her and I'll say, so what is the difference? And she doesn't really have an answer. And it's like, it is literally a toxin. We know now. There was a new report from, it was in Canada. What was the organization? It was like the Canadian like Bureau of Substance Abuse or something like that. And it talks about the links of alcohol to cancer. And even like 1 drink increases the likelihood of Alzheimer's and cancer. And it's like...
Doesn't it depend on the drink, though? Because I've heard so many studies on wine.
Like red wine, I think, can be a little
yeah.
different, but still
Sure.
alcohol in general and intoxication. And the impact that it has, you know, with DUIs and people, you know, being belligerent and killing people on the road and that sort of thing. And it's like, so, you know, we know... we see all these facts, so how does it differ? And I think that's one point that I get stuck on, because obviously we've tried banning alcohol before. That didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I get so torn on it, and I just don't...
I just feel like people are going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to choose to do it.
Alcohol
and
is
they're
something
either...
you could make, and it doesn't take many resources to make something with alcohol.
Same with weed.
True about weed, yes.
I think there's a lot of drugs that people could just
next
like...
door to somebody in LA who was growing pot in their apartment.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, yeah.
In their apartment.
In their apartment.
Oh, yeah, closets, man. You just-
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
stunk.
I've never
It
grown
stunk.
weed. I'm not really sure.
I'm just saying, I think people are going to do it regardless.
Okay,
And I think
that's-
there's-
yeah,
It
that's
makes
fair.
sense to regulate tax and offer something pure where you know you're not going to get like something laced in it that shouldn't be in there.
I do wonder, though, if you change something in the government, right, to criminalize all drugs and whatnot to a higher degree, will that filter down into a cultural change? I feel like for the most part, no.
think it
but
can,
over time, if you give it enough time, it
Okay,
probably
so
will.
I think, not to bring in another like very polarizing subject, but in one instance this year where I feel like I was even kind of proven wrong on the culture is downstream, or no, where I was proven wrong on the politics is downstream from culture was the Dobbs decision, so the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It was fascinating that in the like 2 months after that, you know, we saw all of these girls going on like sex strikes and saying, I'm not going to have sex because of this. And there was a whole Washington Post article about girls my age saying like, guess I'm not going to be hooking up anymore. Like, guess casual sex isn't going to be for me because I can't do this. And, you know, guess I'm going to have to be more safe. And it was all of these things that it's like I think about as somebody who is pro-life. And that, you know, are in the back of my head, and I'm somebody, you know, I don't really value hookup culture. I think it's detrimental to especially women's health and that sort of thing. And they were having, you know, they were making all these decisions because of a law that was put in place. And then a lot of them, you know, months on the line were like, oh, this is so healthy. Like, I need to be anti, you know, hookup culture and that sort of thing. And I was like, okay, so I guess in many cases it can also be downstream from politics when they are forced to. But it was such it was a weird, I don't know, that was trippy for me because it was just interesting to watch them inadvertently kind of fall into like, no, this is actually healthy. But yeah.
But in the drug case, you have to also think of enforcement and the cost of that and the cost of putting people in jail. Does someone really deserve to be in jail because they have an addiction or they have mental illness that they're coping with through drugs? And they have no violent offenses. They're minding their own business, and they got caught up because they bought something on the street that they shouldn't have been buying. It's like, is that the type of person who deserves to be in jail?
Yeah.
So that's what I think.